The message arrived on a Tuesday. Ambassador Mering-Wen was in the middle of a final systems check aboard the Aurora when every communication device, from the ship's main console to her personal neural link, simultaneously lit up with the same signal. For a moment, she thought it was a malfunction. "Captain Torres, are you seeing this?" Mira called out, her eyes fixed on the pulsing symbol that had replaced all regular displays. "Every screen on the ship, Ambassador. It's system-wide." Torres's voice was steady, but Mira caught the undercurrent of tension. "We're getting reports from Earth Command that it's happening planet-wide. Every comm system, civilian and military." Myra's training from her intelligence officer days kicked in. She straightened her midnight blue uniform, Earth's first official extraplanetary diplomatic attire, and motioned to the communications specialist. "Lieutenant Park, isolate and analyze." Park's fingers danced across the holographic interface. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. The signal architecture is unlike anything in our database." He paused, eyes widening. "Ambassador, it's stabilizing into a message format. Translating now." The symbol transformed, rearranging itself into characters that shifted through various Earth languages before settling on English. The message was simple, yet the implications were staggering. *2, Planetary System Sol, 3, Earth. From the Galactic Council, Central Authority. Subject: Integration Notice ***. Your civilization has been detected engaging in faster-than-light travel initiatives. As per Galactic Statute 7.2.5, any species achieving such capability is automatically integrated into Council governance. Your system is hereby classified and incorporated into the Galactic Registry, ***. Congratulations on joining the greater community of spacefaring civilizations." The bridge fell silent. The year was 2173, and humanity had only completed planetary unification after centuries of strife 5 years prior. The development of the resonance drive, Earth's first viable FTL technology, had accelerated the final steps of that unity as nations pooled resources to reach beyond their solar system. The Aurora was to be humanity's first diplomatic vessel, scheduled to begin its maiden journey the following morning. Now, it seemed they weren't going to be the ones making first contact after all. "They've been watching us," Torres said finally, breaking the silence. Mira nodded slowly. "And waiting. The question is, for how long?" She turned to her diplomatic attaché. "Joe, what do we know about this Galactic Council?" "Absolutely nothing, Ambassador," Joe replied, her usual confidence noticeably dimmed. "There's no mention of such an entity in any of our theoretical xenopolitical frameworks." Mira took a deep breath. 20 years in Earth intelligence had taught her that the most dangerous moments were those when you realized how little you actually knew. Send a response. Formal acknowledgement, request for further information, and an invitation for direct communication. As Park prepared the message, the ship's AI announced another incoming transmission. This one appeared as a holographic projection at the center of the bridge, a figure draped in flowing attire that seemed to shift colors with each movement. The being's features were vaguely humanoid, but with proportions that felt just slightly wrong, as if assembled from a description rather than direct observation. "Greetings, Earth representatives," the figure spoke, its voice a harmonious blend that seemed both male and female simultaneously. "I am Counselor Zalin, Communication Attaché for Outer Rim Integrations. I trust our notice has been received." Mira stepped forward. "This is Ambassador Mering-Wen of United Earth. We acknowledge your message, Counselor. However, I must express our surprise. Earth has no prior knowledge of a Galactic Council." The figure's expression remained unchanged, but something in its posture shifted, as is standard with Level 9 civilizations. Knowledge is distributed on a need-to-know basis within the Council hierarchy. "Level 9, Mira questioned. "Your species designation." The Council operates on a classification system from 1 to 9, with 1 being founding members and 9 being newly integrated civilizations. Torres leaned toward Mira and whispered, "I don't like the sound of that." Neither did Mira. but she maintained her diplomatic composure. What exactly does integration entail, counselor? Your immediate concerns are being addressed. A formal integration packet is being transmitted to your systems now. It contains the basic laws, responsibilities, and restrictions applicable to Level 9 member worlds. The figure paused. I must stress that compliance is not optional. Level 9 civilizations are required to provide resource and labor quotas for a minimum period of 200 years before consideration for advancement. The air on the bridge grew heavy. Labor and resource quotas? Myra's voice remained controlled despite the alarm bells ringing in her mind. Counselor Zalin, Earth entered space with the intention of peaceful exchange and mutual benefit. What you're describing sounds more like a perfectly standard arrangement, Zalin interrupted. Your species will benefit greatly from council protection and limited technological exchange. The Convergence celebration will be held on Elith Prime in 30 of your days. Your presence as Earth's representative is expected. I believe this merits further discussion, Mira countered. These terms should be subject to negotiation based on Ambassador Nguyen. The counselor's tone hardened, the harmonious quality giving way to something colder. This is not a negotiation. This is notification. Earth will fulfill its obligations as a Level 9 member world or face reclassification as a non-compliant system, with all the consequences that entails. Before Mira could respond, the hologram flickered and vanished. The bridge erupted into anxious murmurs. Captain Torres moved to Myra's side. Orders, Ambassador? Myra's gaze remained fixed on the empty space where Zalin's image had been. 20 years of training told her this was not a diplomatic exchange. It was a threat assessment. And everything about this council raised red flags. Move up our departure, she said finally. We launch tonight. And contact Earth Command. Tell them to begin analyzing that integration packet. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. And our destination? Torres asked. Myra's expression hardened. Elith Prime. If the mountain won't come to us, we'll go to the mountain. Torres nodded. And if the mountain tries to bury us? Mira turned to face the captain, her eyes reflecting the stars visible through the bridge viewport. Then we'll just have to move it, won't we? As the Aurora prepared for an accelerated departure, Mira retreated to her quarters. The integration packet had been transferred to her private terminal, and what she found within its contents did nothing to ease her concerns. Level 9 civilizations were afforded no representation in council decisions. Earth would be required to supply vast quantities of minerals, biological samples, and, most disturbingly, cognitive labor units, a polite term for indentured intellectuals, to various council research and development projects. In return, they would receive protection and regulated technological advancement at a pace determined by the council. It was colonialism dressed in diplomatic language, plain and simple. Mira paced her quarters, dictating notes for her report back to Earth Command. The language suggests a deeply hierarchical structure, with Level 9 members effectively serving as resource colonies for higher-tier civilizations. There appears to be no democratic process for advancement. All decisions flow from the Council proper, which seems to consist exclusively of Level 1 and 2 members. She paused, studying a section on communication protocols. Interestingly, direct communication between member worlds of different levels is heavily restricted. Level 9 civilizations are only permitted to interact through designated council intermediaries. A chime interrupted her thoughts, a call from the science deck. Dr. Lien Wei's face appeared on her screen, eyes bright with excitement despite the late hour. Ambassador, I've been analyzing the signal architecture of the council's transmission, the xenolinguist began. There's something fascinating embedded in their communication protocols. The message itself was transmitted in a standard format, but the carrier wave contains multiple layers of information. Mira leaned forward. What kind of information? That's just it. I'm not entirely sure. It's like background noise, but deliberately structured. Almost like they're transmitting in multiple languages simultaneously, with the English translation being just one layer. Can you isolate the other layers? Dr. Wei's expression turned sheepish. Not yet. Our systems aren't equipped for this level of signal complexity. But I have a theory. What if these multiple layers are meant for different recipients? What if this single transmission is actually communicating different information to different species? Mira felt a chill run down her spine. You're suggesting they might be telling us one thing while simultaneously telling others something completely different? It's just a theory. But if I'm right, then we can't trust anything they're saying, Mira finished. Keep working on it, Doctor. This could be crucial. After ending the call, Mira stared out at the stars through her viewport. Earth had spent the past century struggling toward unity, believing that once they reached beyond their solar system, they would find new horizons, new possibilities. Instead, it seemed they had merely graduated from local politics to galactic politics, and they'd entered the game at a severe disadvantage. But if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was overcoming disadvantages. Computer, pull up everything we have on power structures and hierarchical systems throughout human history, she commanded. Focus on instances of resistance and reformation. If they were going to challenge a galactic power structure, they would need to understand exactly how such systems maintain control and where their vulnerabilities lay. 6 days of faster-than-light travel brought the Aurora to the edge of the Elith system. The journey had been uneventful, save for the regular orientation transmissions from the Council that continued to detail Earth's obligations in increasingly specific terms. Mira had spent most of the journey studying and preparing. Dr. Wei's team had made progress on the layered communications, confirming that different information was indeed being transmitted to different recipients. More concerning, they had detected trace elements in the transmissions that suggested some form of subtle cognitive influence. Not mind control, but something more akin to subliminal messaging designed to induce compliance. As the Aurora decelerated into the Elith system, the bridge crew fell silent at the sight that greeted them. Elith Prime hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by a vast network of interconnected stations and structures that formed a partial Dyson swarm around its sun. Ships of countless designs moved through designated lanes, a cosmic dance of traffic that spoke to the scale of the civilization they were encountering. "My God," Torres whispered. "There must be thousands of ships." "And we're the new kids at school," Mira said quietly. She straightened her uniform. "Hail the station as instructed in the protocols. Let them know the Earth delegation has arrived." The response was immediate. A set of coordinates appeared on their navigation system, along with a communication from their designated liaison, a mid-level bureaucrat named Vexel. "Approach vector confirmed, Aurora," came the slightly bored voice. "Proceed to docking bay EP 9-7721. Level 9, processing will begin upon arrival." Mira exchanged glances with Torres. The designation wasn't subtle. "Acknowledged, Elith Control," Torres responded. "Proceeding to EP 9-7721. As they maneuvered toward their assigned dock, noticeably distant from the central structures and among what appeared to be service and cargo vessels, Mira addressed her team. "Remember, we're here to observe and gather information first and foremost. We don't yet know enough to take any definitive action." She looked at each of them in turn. "Keep your communications through official channels minimal. Use the secured quantum link for anything important back to Earth." Zhou raised a hand. "What exactly are we looking for, Ambassador?" "Inconsistencies, vulnerabilities, potential allies." Myra's expression was determined. "And most importantly, the truth behind all this posturing and protocol." The docking procedure was automated and efficient, with mechanical arms guiding the Aurora into position. As the airlock sealed against the station, Mira felt a moment of trepidation. They were about to step into the heart of a power structure that had casually informed Earth of its subjugation. The welcome committee consisted of a single individual, Vexel, presumably, flanked by what appeared to be automated security drones. The being was tall and slender, with iridescent scales that caught the light and forearms that moved with precise, measured gestures. "Ambassador Nguyen of Earth," Vexel stated flatly, consulting a translucent tablet. "You are early. Your orientation was not scheduled for another 12 cycles. We were eager to learn more about the Council and our place within it, Mira replied smoothly. Vexel made a gesture that might have been the equivalent of shrug. Irregular, but processable. Your delegation is limited to 3 individuals for the initial orientation. The remainder must stay aboard your vessel. Mira had anticipated this. Myself, scientific attaché, Dr. Wei, and security officer Reyes will attend. The rest of the delegation will comply with vessel restrictions. Vexel nodded and turned without further comment, clearly expecting them to follow. As they moved through the station's corridors, Mira took careful note of their surroundings. The architecture was impressive. Soaring ceilings, seemingly impossible geometric patterns, and materials that defied easy classification. But there was something eerily sterile about it all, as if designed to impress rather than function. They passed various beings of different species, all moving with the same purposeful efficiency. Mira noticed that uniform colors seemed to denote some kind of hierarchy, with certain beings deferring immediately to others based on these visual cues. Your temporary quarters are in Sector 9. Vexel informed them as they entered a transport tube. You will be provided with appropriate identification markers and restricted access passes. Restricted? Mira inquired. Level 9 representatives are permitted access only to designated areas. Vexel replied without inflection. This is standard protocol. Dr. Wei caught Myra's eye, a subtle confirmation passing between them. The segregation was even more explicit than they had anticipated. Their quarters were modest but functional. 3 small rooms with basic amenities and a common area. As soon as Vexel departed, Reyes immediately began scanning for surveillance devices. Clean, he announced after a thorough sweep. Too clean. They're either not monitoring us at all, or using technology we can't detect, Mira finished. Let's assume the latter. Dr. Wei activated a small device that emitted a low-frequency dampening field, not enough to block all potential surveillance, but enough to mask the nuances of their conversation from most known technologies. What's your assessment so far? Mira asked her companions. Reyes frowned. Heavily stratified society. The security I've seen is mostly automated, efficient but inflexible. Could be an advantage. The technological disparity is significant, Dr. Wei added. But something feels off. Did you notice how some of the interfaces seem to be designed for completely different physiologies? It's as if they're using technology adopted from multiple sources rather than developed coherently. Mira nodded. I noticed the same thing. And the way Vexel and the others move through the station. It's like they're following a script. There's rigidity to everything here. She moved to the small viewport that offered a limited view of the station exterior. We need to find others who might share our concerns about the Council's methods. If level 9 species are kept isolated from each other, that won't be easy, Reyes pointed out. A smile slowly spread across Myra's face. Then it's fortunate that humans have a long history of finding ways around rules designed to keep us in our place. The orientation process was every bit as condescending as Mira had expected. For 3 days, they were subjected to endless presentations on Council history, always emphasizing stability and benevolence, technological regulations, primarily restrictions rather than opportunities, and their obligations as documents, communication logs, and most importantly, a detailed analysis of how the Council maintained control over its member worlds. The author, presumably Thale, had meticulously documented patterns of technological suppression, information control, and strategic division of potential allies. Most revealing was a section on Council technology itself. As Dr. Wei had suspected, the Council didn't actually develop most of its advanced technology. They appropriated it from member species, then restricted access to these innovations, doling them out as rewards for compliance while claiming them as Council achievements. They're not innovators, Mira said as she read through the documents. They're gatekeepers. Effective ones, Reyes noted. This system has apparently been stable for over 10,000 years. Dr. Wei was studying another section of the data. Look at this, The Council maintains power through a sophisticated information control system. Member worlds are kept isolated from each other, fed different narratives about the same events, and strategically turned against one another when necessary. Divide and rule, Mira murmured. The oldest political strategy in the book. Using Jex's access, they managed to establish direct contact with representatives from several other Level 9 civilizations. The conversations were necessarily brief and coded, but a pattern quickly emerged: widespread dissatisfaction with council governance, but also widespread fear of the consequences of resistance. The Felorians attempted to challenge their classification 50 years ago. A representative named Naxil told them in a hurried exchange. Their homeworld was accidentally exposed to a corrosive agent during standard atmospheric regulation. A third of their population died before the council resolved the issue. As the convergence celebration approached, Myra's plan took shape. Earth was in a unique position, newly integrated, with no established patterns of compliance, and perhaps most importantly, with a history of resistance against oppressive systems. The night before the celebration, she gathered her core team. The Council's power relies on isolation and misinformation, she explained. They keep species separate, control what information reaches each world, and present themselves as the benevolent center holding everything together. But they're not, Dr. Wei said. No, they're parasites, extracting resources and labor while giving just enough in return to prevent outright rebellion. Mira activated a holographic display showing the station layout, with certain sections highlighted. Thanks to Jex, we now have access to the central communication hub for 12 hours. It's our one chance to break their information monopoly. Reyes studied the security patterns around the highlighted sections. The automated systems follow predictable patterns. We can create a diversion here and here. He indicated 2 points, which should give us a 7-minute window. That's enough, Mira confirmed. Dr. Wei, is the package ready? Wei nodded. The transmission is prepared. Once activated, it will broadcast simultaneously on all council frequencies, with specific translations for each receiving species. Everyone will get the same information for once. The truth about how the council operates, backed by their own internal documents. And the second part, ready as well. A secure communication protocol that will allow direct dialogue between member worlds without council monitoring. Once established, they can't easily shut it down without disrupting their own communications. Mira looked at each of them in turn. This is our only shot. If we fail, Earth will likely face serious repercussions. And if we don't try, Dr. Wei asked quietly, then we accept servitude for generations to come. Myra's expression hardened. I don't know about you, but that's not the future I want for our children. Reyes nodded firmly. We've faced worse odds. Have we? Dr. Wei asked. Well, no, he admitted with a slight smile. But it sounds better than saying we're probably doomed. Morning brought the promised spectacle of the convergence celebration. The Grand Assembly Hall was a marvel of engineering. A vast space with a transparent dome ceiling that revealed both Elith Prime's azure sky and the space beyond, where the orbital structures created patterns of light and shadow across the gathering. As promised, the Earth delegation was positioned in the Level 9 observation area, effectively a balcony far removed from the central proceedings, where the council members sat on elevated platforms arranged in concentric circles denoting their hierarchical positions. Mira noted the careful separation of representatives by level, the strategic positioning that prevented easy communication between potential allies. Everything was designed to reinforce the power structure. Even the lighting was brighter on the council members, dimmer on the lower levels. Ambassador Nguyen, a voice spoke from behind them. Mira turned to find Thale, the Azurian scientist, approaching with careful nonchalance. A magnificent display, is it not? The council does so enjoy its ceremonies. Quite impressive, Mira agreed, matching his casual tone. Though I admit, I'm more interested in the substance behind the spectacle. Thale's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. What Dr. Wei had informed her was an Azurian gesture of ironic agreement. Indeed, substance is always illuminating. He moved slightly closer. Your transmission is prepared. Ready when you are. Jex has cleared the path. When the Level 3 acknowledgements begin, the monitoring systems will experience a brief recalibration. He glanced meaningfully at a chronometer displayed on a nearby wall. Precisely 2 minutes into the High Counselor's address. Mira nodded slightly. We'll be ready. The ceremony began with a procession of council members, each introduced with elaborate titles and accomplishments. The High Counselor, a being of indeterminate gender whose species appeared to be composed of both solid matter and swirling energy, took the central position and began to address the gathering. For 10,000 cycles, the Council has maintained peace and prosperity across the galaxy. The High Counselor's voice resonated through the chamber. Through wisdom and guidance, we have elevated countless species from isolation to membership in our grand community. As the speech continued, filled with self-congratulatory platitudes, Mira watched the chronometer. 1 minute had passed. Dr. Wei, she murmured, prepare to transmit. Wei nodded, her hand moving to the small device concealed within her uniform. Our newest members demonstrate the Council's continuing commitment to expansion and inclusion, the High Counselor continued. Through careful stewardship, these developing civilizations will. The chronometer hit the 2-minute mark. Now, Mira whispered. Dr. Wei activated the device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, subtly at first, a wave of confusion began to spread through the assembly as private communication devices across the chamber simultaneously activated with the same transmission. On the main display screens that had been showing the High Counselor, the image flickered and changed to a compilation of the Council's own internal communications, documents and recordings that revealed the truth of their exploitative system. The High Counselor's voice faltered as murmurs spread through the assembly. Representatives from across the hierarchy were seeing, many for the first time, the unfiltered reality of how the Council operated. This is a malfunction, the High Counselor announced, voice strained. Security, terminate all communications immediately. But the transmission continued, jumping from system to system faster than it could be blocked. The strategic brilliance of Dr. Wei's design was that it used the Council's own communication architecture against itself. The more they tried to shut it down, the more systems it spread to. In the growing confusion, Mira made her way to the central podium, where her 30-second acknowledgement had been scheduled. Counselor Zulin moved to intercept her, but was momentarily distracted by the chaos erupting around them. Mira reached the speaker's position and activated the amplification system. Representatives of all worlds, her voice cut through the disorder. What you are seeing is not a malfunction. It is the truth the Council has hidden from you. For millennia, they have divided us, controlled us, and exploited us while claiming to protect and elevate us. The chamber grew quieter as attention turned to her. Each of you has been told that you are uniquely insufficient, that only through Council guidance can you advance. This is a lie. They take the innovations of member worlds, claim them as their own, and then dole out access as rewards for compliance. On the screens around the chamber, evidence continued to display resource extraction quotas, technology suppression protocols, strategic misinformation campaigns. Earth rejects this system, Mira continued, her voice gathering strength. We reject the premise that any civilization has the right to determine the destiny of another. And we invite all who share this belief to join us in establishing a new paradigm, one based on equal exchange, mutual respect, and true cooperation. Security drones were now converging on her position, but representatives from various levels were standing, some calling out in support, others moving to block the drone's approach. For too long, we have been kept isolated from each other, Mira pressed on. No more. The transmission you've received includes a secure communication protocol that will allow all member worlds to communicate directly, without Council oversight or interference. The choice is now. Yours, continued servitude or a new beginning. The High Counselor's voice boomed through the chamber. This is sedition. Guards, remove the Earth representative immediately. But the momentum had shifted. Representatives from multiple levels were now in open discussion, the careful hierarchical barriers breaking down in the face of shared revelation. Thale appeared at Myra's side. "We need to leave. Now." Jex has secured an exit route, but the window is closing. Reyes and Dr. Wei had already begun moving toward the indicated exit, creating a path through the increasingly chaotic assembly. Mira nodded and stepped away from the podium, her message delivered. As they made their way through service corridors toward a secondary docking bay where the Aurora had been relocated, alarms blared throughout the station. "They're initiating containment protocols," Thale explained as they ran. "We have minutes at most before all departures are locked down. Will the others be able to return to their worlds?" Mira asked, concerned for the representatives who had supported them. "Jex has arranged multiple exit strategies," Thale assured her. "The Council's control systems are currently overwhelmed trying to contain the information breach. It's created vulnerabilities they've never had to address before." When they reached the Aurora, Captain Torres was already prepared for emergency departure. "Ambassador, we have multiple Council vessels moving to blockade positions." "Get us out of here, Captain," Mira ordered as they boarded. "Maximum acceleration as soon as we clear the dock." The Aurora disengaged from the station with practiced efficiency, its engines flaring to life as it accelerated away from Elith Prime. As expected, pursuit was immediate, sleek Council enforcement vessels converging on their position. "They're faster than we are," Torres reported grimly. "Intercept in 3 minutes." Mira exchanged looks with Thale. "Is there another way?" The Azurian gestured to Dr. Wei. "If I may use your systems?" Dr. Wei nodded, granting him access to her console. Thale's 4 arms moved with blurring speed across the interface, inputting a complex sequence of commands. "The Council relies on standardized pursuit protocols," he explained as he worked. "But those protocols have backdoors, placed there by species like mine who anticipated this day might come." On the tactical display, the pursuing vessels suddenly faltered, their formation breaking as their navigation systems receive conflicting commands. "That won't hold them for long," Thale cautioned, "but it should buy us enough time to reach the jump point." Torres didn't need to be told twice. The Aurora pushed to maximum acceleration, streaking toward the predetermined coordinates where they could activate their resonance drive and return to Earth space. As the stars blurred around them in the familiar pattern of FTL transit, Mira finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. They had struck the first blow, but what would follow? "Do you think it will work?" Dr. Wei asked quietly, giving voice to the question they were all considering. "Will enough worlds actually stand against the Council?" "Some will," Thale responded. "Others will wait to see what happens." Fear is a powerful motivator, and the Council has spent millennia cultivating it. Mira looked at the tactical display, where the first phase of their plan glowed as thousands of communication nodes activated across Council space, direct links between worlds that had previously been isolated from one another. "We've given them a choice," she said finally. "That's something they haven't had before." The journey back to Earth was tense, but uneventful. Either the Council had not expected them to escape Elith Prime, or they were dealing with more immediate concerns as the implications of the information breach spread through their systems. During the transit, Mira worked with Thale and Earth Command to prepare for the Council's inevitable response. The data they had acquired provided invaluable insights into Council tactics and technologies, but also highlighted the scale of the challenge they faced. "They will not simply accept this," Thale warned during a strategy session. "The Council has faced internal dissent before and always responded with overwhelming force. Then we need to be prepared to meet force with force," Torres argued. Mira shook her head. "Not just force, alternatives. The Council maintains control by presenting themselves as the only viable system. We need to demonstrate that another way is possible." By the time they reached Earth, the framework for that alternative was taking shape. Asterisk, the Alliance of Free Worlds Asterisk, a cooperative structure based on technological exchange and mutual defense, with no hierarchical restrictions on advancement or communication. Earth, having only recently achieved interstellar capability, was in many ways the perfect headquarters for this. New alliance. They had no entrenched interests in the old system, no habits of compliance to overcome. Within days of their return, representatives from 7 other civilizations had made contact, expressing interest in the alliance. Within weeks, that number had grown to 23. Some were level 9 societies like Earth. Others were higher-level members who had long chafed under council restrictions but lacked the leverage to challenge the system. And then came the response they had been anticipating. Earth's detection systems identified a council fleet entering the outer reaches of the solar system. 15 vessels of varying sizes, all significantly more advanced than anything Earth had developed independently. They're broadcasting a message, the communications officer announced as Earth's defense fleet moved into position. Text only, directed to Ambassador Nguyen specifically. The message appeared on Myra's screen. *2, Ambassador Mira Nguyen, Sol, 3. From High Council, Central Authority *. Your actions constitute severe violations of multiple galactic statutes. Earth is hereby reclassified as a non-compliant system and subject to immediate intervention. *. Surrender yourself and all involved in the Elith Prime incident for adjudication. Comply with original integration requirements within 48 hours or face rectification measures. *. Mira read the message twice before responding. Send this reply. Earth acknowledges your message and rejects its premises entirely. We are not alone, and we are not afraid. As if in answer to her words, space seemed to ripple around the Council fleet as ships began to emerge from FDL transit. Vessels of diverse design and origin, representing members of the newly formed alliance. 27 ships and counting, Torres reported with undisguised satisfaction. Looks like your message resonated more widely than even we anticipated, Ambassador. The Council fleet, suddenly finding itself outmatched, adopted a holding position. A new communication came through, this time as a direct channel request. When Mira accepted, the High Counselor's image appeared. This insurrection cannot succeed, the figure stated without preamble. The Council has maintained galactic stability for 10,000 years. Would you replace order with chaos? Not chaos, Mira replied calmly. Choice. The species you've subjugated are capable of determining their own futures. The Alliance offers cooperation without domination, strength through diversity rather than control. Naive idealism. The High Counselor dismissed. Such systems have been attempted before. They inevitably collapse into conflict and disorder. Perhaps, but that's our risk to take, not yours to decide for us. Mira leaned forward. Your fleet is outnumbered, Counselor, and with each passing hour, more ships are joining our position as word spreads. You can engage us and likely lose, or you can recognize that the galaxy is changing with or without your approval. The High Counselor was silent for a long moment, clearly receiving information from off-screen advisors. What exactly are you proposing? Coexistence, Mira answered simply. The Council may continue to operate among worlds that choose to remain within your system. But any civilization that wishes to join the Alliance must be permitted to do so without reprisal. Unacceptable. Council authority is absolute. Was absolute, Mira corrected. Look at your tactical displays, Counselor. This is not a negotiation. This is notification. The deliberate echo of their first exchange was not lost on the High Counselor, whose expression flickered with what might have been reluctant appreciation. The Council will need to convene to discuss these developments, they said finally. Take all the time you need, Mira replied. We'll be here, and there, and everywhere your control has failed. When the communication ended, Torres approached Mira. You think they'll actually back down? Not entirely, Mira acknowledged. But they're pragmatists at heart. They'll recognize that direct conflict isn't in their interest right now and seek a more subtle approach. Then this isn't over. No. Mira looked at the tactical display, where Alliance ships continued to arrive, forming a protective constellation around Earth. This is just the beginning. In the months that followed, a new equilibrium began to take shape. The Council, recognizing they could not easily crush the Alliance militarily, adopted a containment strategy instead, restricting Alliance access to traditional Council space while increasing incentives for loyalty among their remaining members. Meanwhile, the Alliance grew steadily, its emphasis on technological exchange and cooperation proving attractive to societies tired of artificial restrictions on their advancement. Earth, despite its relative technological immaturity, became a diplomatic and strategic hub, a neutral meeting ground where species that had been kept apart for millennia could finally interact directly.